The towel hit the floor with a wet slap. Damon Cross, a 38-year-old white MMA instructor, stood over Jerome Washington like he owned him. And in that moment, watching Jerome crawl across the soaked gym floor to pick up his cleaning supplies, Damon thought he did own him. Maybe if you spent less time daydreaming and more time working, these floors would actually be clean, Damon sneered, his expensive Under Armour gear pristine, while Jerome's uniform was soaked through with dirty water. What Damon didn't know was that Jerome Washington had been holding back for 3 years. And tonight, that restraint was about to snap in the most spectacular way possible. The 20 students at Elite Combat Academy watched in uncomfortable silence. Some pulled out their phones. Others looked away. But Jerome's hands were trembling, not from fear, from something much more dangerous. You see, Jerome had a secret that could destroy Damon's career in exactly 12 seconds. A secret buried so deep that even his own daughter didn't know the truth about who her father really was. Jerome Washington pushed through the back entrance of Elite Combat Academy at exactly 6 p.m., just like he had every single night for 3 years. His janitor's cart squeaked through the hallway as the last of the day shift students grabbed their gym bags and headed out into the Miami heat. At 44, Jerome moved with a quiet dignity that most people mistook for submission. His dark skin showed the wear of a man who'd worked double shifts to keep food on the table. His daughter Keisha was 17 now, college applications due in 6 months, and Jerome's $11 an hour salary was all that stood between her dreams and crushing student debt. The gym itself was a monument to wealth and privilege. 12,000 square feet of premium real estate in Coral Gables, where the monthly rent cost more than Jerome made in a year. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the upscale shopping district. Chrome and red leather dominated every surface. Professional-grade octagon ring. Rows of heavy bags that cost more individually than Jerome's monthly take-home pay. Damon Cross owned 40% of this empire. At 38, he'd built his reputation training Miami's elite business executives, professional athletes, and social media influencers who paid premium prices to learn authentic combat techniques, from someone who talked a good game about warrior mentality and alpha dominance. But here's what Damon's paying customers didn't know. The man who charged them $200 per session had never actually fought professionally. His highlight reel was all amateur footage and staged demonstrations. Damon Cross was a fraud who'd found his kingdom by preying on people's insecurities and selling them confidence they thought they couldn't find anywhere else. Jerome had been watching Damon's instruction for 3 years. Every night, he'd clean around the training areas while the monitors played security footage from the day's sessions. And every night, Jerome winced at the terrible techniques Damon was teaching to people who trusted him with their safety. Tonight started like any other. Jerome emptied trash bins and sanitized equipment while Damon wrapped up a late session with his prize student, Brad Mitchell, a 22-year-old trust fund kid whose father paid extra for private lessons. Remember, in a rear naked choke, you keep your chin high and your arms wide, Damon demonstrated, showing Brad the exact technique that would get him killed in a real fight. That's proper defensive form. Street fighters don't know real technique like this. Jerome's mop handle creaked under his grip. 3 years of watching Damon teach dangerous, wrong techniques to people who might actually need to defend themselves someday. 3 years of biting his tongue while Damon built his reputation on lies and ignorance. But Jerome stayed quiet. Keisha needed him to stay quiet. The breaking point came when Damon decided to make Jerome part of his demonstration. "Jerome, come here for a second," Damon called out, that condescending tone that made Jerome's jaw clench every single time. "I want to show Brad something about real-world application." Jerome hesitated. "I'm not trained for demonstrations, Mr. Cross." "Don't worry, I'll go easy on you," Damon grinned, that shark smile that his students mistook for confidence. "Just need you to hold still while I show proper takedown defense." What happened next was calculated humiliation designed to reinforce the hierarchy that Damon needed to maintain. He positioned Jerome like a training dummy, pushing him around while explaining technique to Brad and the few remaining students who'd stopped to watch. "See how I control the distance?" Damon shoved Jerome backward, harder than necessary. Real opponents won't cooperate like in the movies. They'll try to intimidate you with size and aggression. Each demonstration became more aggressive. Damon accidentally swept Jerome's legs, sending him stumbling. He applied a loose choke hold that was just tight enough to be uncomfortable, holding it longer than necessary while explaining the psychology of dominance. Some people think watching fights makes them fighters, Damon announced loudly, his arms still around Jerome's neck. But there's a difference between pretending and actually knowing what you're doing. Jerome could have ended it right there. The hold was so loose, so poorly applied, that Jerome could have reversed it in 3 different ways without even thinking. But Keisha's college applications were on his kitchen table at home. Her future was worth more than his pride. When Damon finally released him, Jerome straightened his uniform and returned to his cleaning cart without a word. But something had changed. Something fundamental had shifted in the careful balance Jerome had maintained for 3 years. Damon wasn't finished. The humiliation had felt too good, too effective in front of his audience. He'd tasted blood in the water and wanted more. Actually, Jerome, since you're here. Damon's voice carried that dangerous edge that Jerome recognized from 3 years of careful observation. Why don't you help me demonstrate proper pad work? Brad needs to see how a real instructor handles different types of training partners. The focus mitts felt foreign in Jerome's hands. It had been over 15 years since he'd held training equipment, but muscle memory is a powerful thing. He found himself automatically adjusting his stance, positioning his hands at the correct angles, his body unconsciously falling into patterns that had been drilled into him thousands of times in a different life. Damon started with light combinations, showing off for Brad and the other students who'd gathered around to watch. But gradually, his strikes grew harder. What started as controlled demonstrations became deliberate punishment disguised as training. See how I'm targeting specific points? Damon explained while throwing increasingly vicious shots at Jerome's padded hands. A real fighter adapts power based on the situation. Jerome absorbed each impact without complaint. His shoulders ached from holding the pad steady against Damon's poorly thrown combinations. His forearms burned from blocking strikes that weren't supposed to make contact with anything but padding. Then Damon threw a combination that accidentally glanced off Jerome's left shoulder. The same shoulder that had been dislocated during Jerome's military service. An old injury that flared up whenever Miami's humidity spiked. Lightning shot down Jerome's arm. He dropped the pads and nearly retaliated before catching himself. His right hand forming a perfect fist before he forced it open again. Careful there, Jerome, Damon smirked, stepping back with his hands up in mock surrender. Wouldn't want you to hurt yourself. Or me. The students shifted uncomfortably. Even they could see that something was very wrong with this picture. But Jerome just picked up the pads and resumed his position, his face a mask of professional calm while inside. Something ancient and dangerous was stirring to life. The real breaking point came 3 days later. Jerome arrived at work to find Damon filming a social media video in the main training area. Nothing unusual about that. Damon was constantly creating content for his Instagram account, which had grown to over 150,000 followers who bought into his alpha male persona. But this video was different. Damon had set up his phone to capture the security monitors, which displayed footage from Jerome's training demonstration earlier that week. The angle made it look like Jerome was actually sparring with Damon, like he'd volunteered to be part of the session. Sometimes you've got to show people the difference between confidence and competence. Damon narrated to his phone camera. Some folks think watching UFC makes them fighters. Reality has a way of setting the record straight. The video went live while Jerome was still in the building. Within an hour, it had thousands of views and hundreds of comments. Most of them were exactly what you'd expect, racist garbage about knowing your place and staying humble, that made Jerome's stomach turn. But it was the notification on his phone that shattered the last of Jerome's restraint. A text from Keisha. Dad, why are people saying things about you online? Jerome's daughter had found the video. His 17-year-old girl, who'd already endured too much pain watching her father work nights to pay for her mother's cancer treatments before they lost her 3 years ago, was now reading hundreds of strangers mocking the man who'd sacrificed everything to give her a chance at a better life. That night, Jerome worked in mechanical silence. But Maria Santos, the gym's facilities manager, noticed something different in the way he moved. She'd been documenting Damon's harassment for months, building a file of complaints and incident reports that management kept ignoring because Damon brought in too much revenue to discipline. Jerome. Maria approached him carefully as he organized cleaning supplies in the storage room. Are you okay? What happened in that video? That wasn't right. Jerome looked up from his inventory sheet. For the first time in 3 years, Maria saw something other than resignation in his eyes. I need this job, Maria. Keisha's got 6 more months of high school, then college applications. I can't afford to lose this job. That man is trying to get you to quit or do something stupid so he can fire you with cause, Maria said quietly. I've seen him do it to other people. He's not going to stop until he destroys you. Jerome was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked a question that made Maria's blood run cold. What if I didn't let him? What Maria Santos didn't know was that Jerome Washington had been living a lie for over 15 years. A necessary lie that kept food on his table and hope alive in his daughter's heart. But lies have a way of surfacing when the pressure becomes too great. In a storage unit across town, gathering dust behind a combination lock that Jerome hadn't opened in 8 years, were reminders of the man he used to be. Golden Gloves championship belts, military service commendations, newspaper clippings from the Miami Herald sports section featuring a young boxer named Lightning Jerome Washington, who'd been destined for greatness before life forced him to choose between his dreams and his family's survival. Jerome had been 26 when everything fell apart. Undefeated in 23 professional fights, ranked 5th in his weight class, with a title shot scheduled for December 2008. Then Keisha's mother, Patricia, got the diagnosis that changed everything. Cervical cancer, stage 3. Treatment would cost everything they had and more. Jerome had a choice. Pursue his boxing career and risk losing the woman he loved, or hang up his gloves and find steady work with health insurance. For Jerome Washington, it wasn't really a choice at all. He'd spent the next 15 years telling himself that sacrifice had been worth it. 3 years with Patricia before the cancer took her anyway. 12 years raising Keisha as a single father, working construction during the day and security at night until an injury forced him into custodial work that paid less but was easier on his aging body. Every night for 3 years, Jerome had cleaned Elite Combat Academy while watching Damon Cross teach terrible techniques to people who deserved better. Every night, he'd bitten his tongue when Damon demonstrated defensive positions that would get his students hurt or killed in real confrontations. But Jerome had stayed quiet, because Keisha needed him to stay quiet. Now, sitting in his apartment at 2 a.m. while Keisha slept, Jerome stared at his phone screen showing hundreds of racist comments on Damon's viral video. Strangers were calling his daughter's father everything but human, and she'd seen every word. For the first time in 3 years, Jerome allowed himself to remember who he used to be. The next morning, Carlos Rivera arrived at Elite Combat Academy early to find something that stopped him in his tracks. Carlos was the gym's most experienced trainer, a 55-year-old former professional who'd been coaching for 30 years. He'd been watching Jerome for months, recognizing muscle memory that couldn't be faked. Through the gym's glass doors, Carlos saw Jerome moving with fluid precision around a heavy bag. Not cleaning around it, working it, throwing combinations with surgical accuracy, his footwork textbook perfect, his breathing controlled and rhythmic. Carlos entered quietly, his keys forgotten as Jerome transitioned into defensive movements against an imaginary opponent. Every technique was flawless. Every combination flowed like poetry written in violence and dedication. Jesus Christ, Carlos whispered. Jerome spun around, caught in the act of being himself. For a moment, both men stood frozen in the fluorescent-lit silence of the empty gym. How long? Carlos asked simply. 23-0 as a professional, Jerome said quietly, pulling off hand wraps he'd hidden beneath cleaning supplies. Golden Gloves regional champion 4 years running. Military combatives instructor for 6 years after I hung up the gloves. Carlos shook his head in amazement. Damon Cross has been teaching garbage techniques to paying customers for 3 years. You've been watching him do it every single night. Every night, Jerome confirmed. his voice carrying the weight of suppressed frustration. His combination work creates openings that would get these people killed in real fights. His defensive positions are suicide. But I need this job. Not anymore, you don't, Carlos said, his expression hardening with determination. I heard Damon talking to management yesterday. He's already interviewing replacement custodians. You're getting fired whether you fight back or not. The words hit Jerome like physical blows. 3 years of swallowed pride, endured humiliation, and silent suffering for nothing. His careful strategy of survival was crumbling regardless of his submission to Damon's abuse. There's something else, Carlos continued. The gym owners are conducting an investigation into Damon's conduct. Too many complaints from staff and students about his behavior. Maria's been building a case, documenting everything. Jerome slumped against the heavy bag that had betrayed his secret. Keisha's college applications are due in 4 months. I can't afford to be unemployed. Listen to me carefully. Carlos stepped closer, his voice urgent. Damon is planning something big to get rid of you permanently. I heard him on the phone talking about settling this once and for all. He's not just going to fire you. He's going to destroy your reputation so you can't find work anywhere. Carlos paused, choosing his words carefully. But what if we turn this around? What if instead of being his victim, you became the person who exposed what kind of man he really is? Jerome looked up, seeing something in Carlos's eyes he hadn't seen in years. Not pity, not sympathy, but genuine respect for what he was capable of. What are you suggesting? A formal challenge. Fighter to fighter. You call him out publicly. Demand he face you in the ring to settle this like warriors instead of hiding behind his position of power. Jerome shook his head. He'll never agree to that. He will if you do it right. Carlos pulled out his phone, showing Jerome Damon's latest Instagram post. Another mocking video featuring security footage of Jerome cleaning, with the caption, "Some people just can't accept their limitations. Hashtag no eat or place, hashtag stay hungry, hashtag elite combat." You challenge him in the comments section of this post. Make it about respect and dignity. Force him to either accept or look like a coward in front of everyone who matters to his business. Jerome stared at the phone screen, reading the dozens of racist comments below Damon's post. His daughter's tears when she'd found the original video flashed through his memory. And if I lose? You won't, Carlos said with quiet certainty. I've been training fighters for 30 years. Damon Cross is a regional amateur with good marketing skills. You're a trained killer who's been holding back because you're a decent human being. Jerome rewrapped his hands slowly, muscle memory guiding the familiar ritual. For the first time in 3 years, he felt like himself again. What exactly are you proposing? The comment appeared on Damon's Instagram at 4:23 a.m. Simple and direct. You want to settle this like men? I challenge you to face me in the ring. Winner stays, loser leaves elite combat permanently. Unless you're afraid to fight someone who might actually fight back. Jerome Washington. By morning, the comment had exploded across social media. Hundreds of likes, thousands of replies, and tags flooding in from all over Miami's MMA community. Local fighters were sharing screenshots, betting sites were taking odds, and amateur combat sports blogs were calling it the most anticipated street-level bout in years. Damon arrived at Elite Combat Academy that afternoon to find his students buzzing with excitement. Word had spread beyond Instagram. Local MMA forums were discussing the challenge. Sports radio was taking calls about whether the gym owner would actually step into the ring with his janitor. You're really going to fight the custodian? Brad Mitchell asked, genuine curiosity replacing his usual deference. Damon's ego made the decision for him. Backing down would destroy his reputation permanently. Winning would cement his dominance forever. Friday night, after regular hours, Damon announced to the gathering crowd of students and trainers, "Since Jerome wants to embarrass himself publicly, I'll give him that opportunity." But Damon made a crucial mistake. Blinded by his own arrogance and racist assumptions, he never bothered to research who Jerome Washington really was. He never looked up the name Lightning Washington or checked amateur boxing records from the early 2000s. If he had, Damon Cross would have discovered that he'd just agreed to fight a man who'd been professionally trained to hurt people for over 2 decades. Word spread like wildfire through Miami's fight community. By Wednesday, Elite Combat Academy was fielding calls from local sports bloggers, amateur MMA enthusiasts, and curious spectators who wanted to witness what everyone was calling either a tragic mismatch or the upset of the year. Carlos helped Jerome train in secret, arriving early each morning to open the gym for private sessions. What he witnessed during those sessions convinced him that Friday night would be historic. Jerome's combinations were surgical. His defensive work was flawless. His conditioning suggested he'd never really stopped training, just stopped admitting it to himself. This wasn't going to be a fight. It was going to be an education. Friday night transformed Elite Combat Academy into something resembling the Roman Colosseum. Over 300 people had somehow squeezed into a space designed for 150. The crowd was split down the middle. Damon supporters, mostly wealthy students and social media followers who saw him as their alpha male representative, versus Jerome's supporters, a more diverse group that included every minority staff member Damon had ever mistreated, local fighters who'd heard the rumors, and people who simply loved watching bullies get what they deserved. The makeshift ring was nothing more than taped boundaries on the main training floor, but the atmosphere was electric. Phone cameras were everywhere, live streams broadcasting to thousands of viewers across multiple platforms, and an energy that made seasoned fighters stop what they were doing and pay attention. Damon entered like he was walking into Madison Square Garden. Custom shorts, professional-grade hand wraps, warming up with elaborate shadow boxing routines designed to intimidate and impress his audience. His social media team documented every moment, building content for the victory celebration they'd already planned. "Hope you're ready for this, Jerome," Damon announced loudly enough for everyone to hear. Time to learn the difference between watching fights and actually fighting. Jerome entered through the back door wearing simple black shorts and basic hand wraps. No fanfare, no show, just a man preparing to do what he'd been born to do. But Carlos Rivera, serving as Jerome's corner man, noticed something that made his pulse quicken. Jerome moved like water. Fluid, controlled, every step calculated. His breathing was slow and rhythmic. His eyes held the focused intensity of someone who'd been here before, in moments where everything mattered and second place meant unconsciousness. Maria Santos reluctantly agreed to serve as referee, the only person both men trusted to keep things fair. The rules were simple: 3 3-minute rounds or until someone couldn't continue. Touch gloves and keep it clean. "Gentlemen," Maria announced to the packed gym, "this is settled here tonight with no hard feelings afterward. Touch gloves." Damon bounced on his toes, adrenaline and bravado pumping through his system as he extended his gloves. Jerome met them with quiet respect, the gesture of a professional who understood that violence should never be personal. When Maria said, "Fight," everything changed. Damon rushed forward immediately, throwing wild haymakers designed to end the confrontation in spectacular fashion. He wanted a knockout highlight reel that would go viral for all the right reasons, crushing his uppity janitor in front of everyone who mattered to his business. But Jerome Washington wasn't there. The first punch missed by inches as Jerome slipped to the right with minimal movement, like he'd seen it coming from 3 seconds away. The second swing caught nothing but air as Jerome ducked smoothly underneath, his head movement textbook perfect. Damon's third attempt, a looping overhand right with all his weight behind it, passed harmlessly over Jerome's head as he stepped inside the arc with timing that spoke of thousands of hours of practice. The crowd's bloodthirsty excitement shifted to confused murmuring. Where was the violence they'd been promised? Why wasn't anyone getting hurt? Jerome spent the entire first round making Damon look like an amateur. Every attack was slipped, blocked, or avoided with the kind of defensive mastery that comes from fighting men who were actually trying to take your head off, not impress students paying for the privilege of learning fake techniques. Jerome threw exactly 4 punches in the first round. Light jabs that snapped Damon's head back and reminded him that he was being toyed with. Each one landed with perfect timing, just hard enough to sting, just fast enough to prove that Jerome could have hurt him whenever he wanted. Damon returned to his corner breathing heavily, his face flushed with exertion and growing panic. Why won't he fight back? Damon gasped to his corner man, a local fighter named Tommy who'd volunteered to help. Maybe because he doesn't need to, Tommy replied quietly, recognizing something his fighter clearly couldn't see. Round 2 began with Damon trying to be more technical, but his technique crumbled under real pressure. When you've never faced someone who actually knows how to fight, all your practice combinations become meaningless improvisation. Jerome began throwing combinations now, not to hurt but to educate. A perfect jab cross that caught Damon flush on the chin, snapping his head back and sending his mouthguard flying across the mat. A hook to the body that doubled Damon over and drove the air from his lungs in a painful whoosh that the crowd could hear in the sudden silence. An uppercut that lifted Damon onto his toes and sent him stumbling backward into the ropes that weren't there, nearly falling as he tried to create distance from an opponent who moved like smoke. The crowd was on its feet now. Phone cameras captured every moment as Damon Cross, the gym's supposed alpha male champion, was systematically dismantled by a man he'd called just the help for 3 years. Between rounds, Carlos whispered to Jerome, "This isn't a fight. This is a masterclass." But something had changed in Jerome's eyes. 3 years of suppressed anger was starting to surface. 3 years of racist insults, deliberate humiliation, and watching his daughter cry over social media comments were beginning to override his professional restraint. Round 3 never really started as a competitive bout. Damon came out desperate, throwing everything he had in wild, uncontrolled combinations. His cardio was shot, his defense was non-existent, and his technique had devolved into the kind of windmill punching you see in high school parking lots. Jerome had seen enough. Damon charged forward with a telegraphed right cross, putting all his remaining energy behind a punch that might have troubled an amateur. Jerome stepped inside the attack, his left hand coming up in a perfect hook that caught Damon on the point of his jaw with surgical precision. The sound was like a baseball bat hitting a side of beef. Damon Cross collapsed instantly, his body going completely limp before he hit the mats. His eyes rolled back, his limbs twitched once, and then he was completely still except for the slow rise and fall of his chest. The gym fell dead silent except for the sound of dozens of phones capturing the moment that would define both men's futures forever. Jerome immediately dropped to one knee beside Damon, checking his pulse and breathing with the professionalism of someone trained in combat medicine. When Damon's eyes fluttered open 45 seconds later, Jerome helped him sit up slowly, supporting his head until he could focus. "You okay?" Jerome asked quietly, genuine concern in his voice. Damon nodded weakly, his pride more shattered than his jaw. As the reality of what had just happened sank in, as he realized that hundreds of people had just watched him get knocked unconscious by the man he'd spent 3 years humiliating, something inside him broke completely. The crowd erupted in cheers that shook the building's windows. Justice had been served in the most public, undeniable way possible. Within minutes, the videos were uploaded to every social media platform on Earth. #JusticeForJerome began trending within the hour as the footage spread like wildfire through communities that had been waiting their entire lives to see a bully get exactly what he deserved. Professional fighters shared the knockout with commentary about Jerome's perfect technique and incredible restraint. "That's how you end a fight?" wrote former UFC champion Anderson Silva on his Instagram, sharing the clip with his 6 million followers. But as Jerome helped his former tormentor to his feet, showing the kind of class that Damon had never possessed, neither man realized that the real fight was just beginning. Damon Cross woke up Saturday morning to discover his entire world had collapsed overnight. The video of his knockout had exploded across every platform imaginable. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, everywhere you looked. There was Jerome Washington's perfect left hook ending Damon's career in one devastating moment. #JusticeForJerome was trending globally with over 4 million views and climbing. Professional fighters, trainers, and martial artists from around the world were sharing the clip with captions like, "Perfect technique," and "That's what real skill looks like." But for Damon, the humiliation was just beginning. His first instinct was to lawyer up. By Monday morning, he'd hired Richard Sterling, an expensive Miami attorney who specialized in turning obvious losses into profitable lawsuits. "I want assault charges filed immediately," Damon demanded, his jaw still aching from Jerome's surgical left hook. That was an unprovoked attack by someone with professional fighting experience who deliberately concealed his dangerous capabilities. Sterling was skeptical, but Damon was paying $500 an hour for representation. Within 48 hours, they'd crafted a narrative that painted Jerome as an unstable employee who'd attacked his supervisor during what Damon claimed was supposed to be a light training demonstration. "My client feared for his life," Sterling announced to Channel 7's morning news program. Mr. Washington used professional-level violence against an amateur trainer who was simply trying to help resolve a workplace dispute. This was clearly premeditated assault disguised as a sporting event. The arrest happened at Jerome's apartment complex at 5:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Keisha watched through their kitchen window as 3 Miami-Dade police officers led her father away in handcuffs, her 18-year-old heart breaking as neighbors emerged to witness the spectacle. Damon's media strategy was perfectly orchestrated. He appeared on local morning shows with his jaw wrapped in gauze that was more theatrical than medical, speaking softly about his traumatic experience and his ongoing fear of further violence. "I gave Jerome Washington a job when no one else would," Damon told Channel 4's sympathetic anchor. "I tried to mentor him, to give him structure and purpose. This is how he repaid my kindness, with violence that could have killed me." The selective editing was masterful. Security footage showed Jerome throwing the knockout punch, but conveniently omitted the weeks of harassment, the public humiliation, and the formal challenge that Damon himself had accepted. Public opinion began to shift as algorithms pushed Damon's victim narrative to audiences already predisposed to believe his version of events. Local Facebook groups filled with comments about violent criminals and dangerous individuals who needed to be removed from civilized society. Jerome's court-appointed attorney was Lisa Rodriguez, an overworked public defender juggling 52 other cases. During their brief consultation, she reviewed Damon's claims with growing concern. "Mr. Washington, they're seeking felony assault charges with enhanced penalties for workplace violence," Rodriguez explained, exhaustion evident in her voice. "Mr. Cross's medical records show concussion symptoms. His attorney is claiming lost income, emotional distress, and ongoing medical expenses totaling over $300,000. The legal proceedings moved swiftly. Sterling filed motions to suppress the viral video evidence, claiming it was inflammatory and prejudicial to potential jurors. He demanded character witnesses for Damon and painted Jerome as a violent individual with extensive combat training who deliberately concealed his dangerous capabilities from his employer. But Damon had made a crucial mistake. His arrogance and racist assumptions had blinded him to who Jerome Washington really was, not just as a fighter, but as a man. The turning point came from an unexpected source. Keisha Washington, devastated by watching her father's character assassinated daily on social media, decided to fight back the only way her generation knew how. She created a TikTok account and began posting videos defending the man who'd sacrificed everything for her future. "My dad is the gentlest person I know," Keisha said in a video that would eventually reach 5 million viewers. "He worked night shifts at that gym to pay for my school supplies and my mom's medical bills before she died. Damon Cross tortured him every single day for 3 years, and nobody helped him." Keisha's videos humanized Jerome in ways his overworked attorney couldn't. She showed his old Golden Gloves trophies, his military service commendations, and photos of him volunteering at youth boxing programs before financial desperation forced him into custodial work. "That knockout punch took 12 seconds, Keisha said directly to her camera. "But it took 3 years of racist abuse to get there. My father held back for 3 years because he knew I needed him to keep that job." The hashtag Justice for Jerome movement resurged with devastating force. Social media influencers with millions of followers began sharing Keisha's videos. Professional athletes posted supportive messages. Civil rights organizations offered legal support. But the real bombshell came when Carlos Rivera decided that some things were more important than job security. Carlos had been secretly recording Damon's harassment for months, capturing audio that revealed the true nature of their relationship. Conversations where Damon used racial slurs. Planning sessions where he explicitly discussed ways to break down Jerome until he quit or did something stupid that would justify termination. The night before Jerome's preliminary hearing, Carlos uploaded 23 minutes of audio recordings to YouTube with a simple title, "The Truth About Damon Cross and Jerome Washington." The response was immediate and devastating. Within hours, the recordings had been viewed over 2 million times. News outlets picked up the story. Legal analysts began discussing the case on national television. Damon Cross wasn't just exposed as a liar, he was revealed as something much worse. The recordings captured Damon using the N-word repeatedly. They documented systematic psychological warfare designed to provoke exactly the response he got. Most damaging of all, they proved that Damon had deliberately planned and accepted the challenge, making his claims of victimhood legally worthless. By morning, #JusticeForDamon had disappeared entirely, replaced by #ExposeRacistBullies and #StandWithJerome hashtags that trended globally. Damon's carefully constructed victim narrative crumbled completely. Sponsors withdrew their support. His gym membership plummeted as students canceled their contracts en masse. His social media following collapsed from 150,000 to fewer than 20,000 overnight. The preliminary hearing became a media circus. Protesters supporting Jerome filled the courthouse steps. News vans from major networks broadcast live updates. Legal experts called it one of the most clear-cut cases of justified self-defense they'd ever witnessed. Jerome's testimony was devastating in its quiet dignity. He recounted 3 years of daily humiliation without anger or bitterness, speaking about his daughter's needs and his determination to provide for her future, regardless of the personal cost. "I held back for 3 years because Keisha needed me to have that job," Jerome said calmly. "I let him call me boy because Keisha needed school supplies. I cleaned up his deliberate messes because Keisha needed food on the table. I took his abuse because Keisha needed a father who could take care of her." When the prosecutor asked why he'd finally fought back, Jerome's answer silenced the courtroom. "Because he posted that video online. And my daughter had to see hundreds of strangers calling her father things that no child should ever read about the man who loves her most in this world." Damon's testimony was a disaster. Confronted with his own recorded words, caught in obvious lies about his motivations, he lost control completely on the witness stand. "That's bullshit." Damon exploded when Jerome's attorney played recordings of him using racial slurs. He wanted to fight. He loved showing off his training. He wanted to humiliate me. The courtroom erupted as Damon continued his meltdown. "I gave him a job when no one else would. I tried to help him understand his place. And he repaid me by trying to kill me in front of everyone." Judge Patricia Hawkins called for order as Damon's racist rant destroyed any remaining sympathy the jury might have felt. His own attorney tried desperately to control the damage, but it was too late. The jury deliberated for 37 minutes. On the charge of felony assault, we find the defendant Jerome Washington not guilty. The foreman announced to a courtroom that erupted in raw emotion. Keisha Washington collapsed into tears, 3 years of watching her father suffer finally ending in vindication. Damon Cross stared at the ceiling, his world crashing down around him as supporters rushed to embrace Jerome. But the real bomb was still coming. Judge Hawkins wasn't finished. Furthermore, given the evidence of systematic harassment and the frivolous nature of these charges, Mr. Cross is ordered to pay $95,000 in damages to Mr. Washington. Damon's face went white. His expensive lawyer had just cost him more than Jerome made in 5 years. The aftermath was brutal. Within 48 hours, the Florida Athletic Commission revoked Damon's training credentials permanently. Elite Combat Academy fired him via email. His sponsorship deals evaporated overnight as companies scrambled to distance themselves from the documented racist. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Jerome turned down every job offer that flooded in. Premium gyms offering triple his old salary, celebrity trainers wanting to partner with the viral sensation, even movie studios interested in his story. He turned them all down. Instead, Jerome did something that nobody expected. He used his settlement money and the donations from millions of supporters to open Phoenix Rising Combat Academy in the heart of Liberty City, one of Miami's most underserved communities. Not a fancy gym for rich clients. A community center where kids who couldn't afford martial arts training could learn to protect themselves. Where single mothers could take self-defense classes for free. where former gang members could channel their aggression into something positive. Everyone deserves to know how to defend themselves, Jerome told the local news. But more than that, everyone deserves respect. The academy's first student was Tommy Rodriguez, a 14-year-old who'd been getting jumped walking home from school every day. 6 months later, Tommy wasn't getting bullied anymore. Not because he was fighting back, but because he carried himself with the confidence that comes from knowing you can fight back if you need to. Carlos Rivera became Jerome's partner, finally able to teach real martial arts without compromising his integrity. Together, they created something unprecedented. A curriculum that taught deadly techniques alongside moral responsibility. "We don't train bullies," Carlos would tell new students. "We train protectors." Keisha, now at the University of Miami on a scholarship funded by Jerome's viral fame, managed the academy's explosive social media growth. Her videos of her father teaching proper technique while emphasizing character and respect consistently went viral, spreading the message that true warriors defend the defenseless. But the real impact came 6 months later. A video surfaced that made everyone who'd followed the story stop in their tracks. Damon Cross, now working minimum wage at a Planet Fitness in rural Georgia, had been caught on security camera verbally abusing a teenage employee who'd accidentally dropped some equipment. The same racist language, the same intimidation tactics, the same pathetic need to dominate someone he perceived as weak. The video went viral for all the wrong reasons. "Some people never learn," Jerome said when reporters asked for his comment. "That's exactly why we do what we do here. We break cycles instead of perpetuating them." Meanwhile, Jerome's academy had become something unprecedented in American martial arts. Over 300 gyms nationwide adopted the Jerome Washington standards, mandatory anti-harassment policies, character-based instruction, and zero tolerance for discrimination. The International MMA Federation created an annual award in Jerome's name. Professional fighters made pilgrimages to train with the man who'd proven that real strength comes from character, not aggression. But the moment that really showed who Jerome Washington was came on a Tuesday night in February. A young white teenager named Brandon walked into the academy, nervous and clearly out of place in the predominantly Black and Latino neighborhood. His story was heartbreaking. Constant bullying at his private school, depression, suicidal thoughts. Jerome worked with Brandon personally for months, not just teaching him to fight, but teaching him to believe in himself, to stand up to bullies without becoming one, to find strength in protecting others instead of dominating them. 6 months later, Brandon's mother called Jerome in tears. "He saved 3 younger kids from getting beaten up at school yesterday," she sobbed into the phone. "He stepped in and stopped it without throwing a single punch. Just by being there, being confident. You saved my son's life." That night, Jerome sat in his office looking at the photo on his desk. Not his Golden Gloves trophies or newspaper clippings from his boxing days. A picture of his current students, kids from every background imaginable, united by the values he'd taught them. Jerome Washington had started as a broken man pushing a mop, enduring racist abuse to feed his daughter. He'd ended up as something much more powerful. A man who proved that justice isn't just about getting revenge on your enemies. Sometimes justice means becoming so much more than what your enemies tried to make you that you inspire others to rise above their own circumstances. The heavy bag still hangs in the Academy's place of honor. But now it's surrounded by photos of students who've gone on to college, started businesses, become teachers and social workers and community leaders. The plaque beneath it reads, "The most dangerous person in the room is the one everyone underestimates. Use that power wisely." Damon Cross destroyed his own life trying to break Jerome Washington. Jerome Washington rebuilt his life by lifting up everyone around him. And that's the difference between a bully and a warrior. The knockout punch lasted 12 seconds. But the man it revealed will inspire people for generations. What do you think? Have you ever had to stand up to a bully who thought they had all the power? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one.